On Friday, April 1st, the world-renowned Grammy-winning guitarist Jason Vieaux released his latest CD titled Bach Volume 2. Vio's musical pilgrimage of the music of Bach comes 13 years after he released his first CD of Bach, titled Bach Volume 1. This Bach Volume 2 consists of music that some listeners might be familiar with on violin. He's playing Bach's Partita number 3, the Sonata number 3, and the Sonata number 1 with this second volume. Vieaux shows that this music works equally well on guitar. And joining me here over Zoom to talk about Bach Volume 2, I am joined by the great guitarist, Jason Vieaux. Hi, Jason. Nice to see you.
Hi, Chris. Great to be here. Thank you.
I first want to say this is just a fabulous CD. I'm not familiar with Bach's lute music. Who did the arrangements? Was it Bach? How did the arrangements of this music come about?
Oh, with the lute suites, those were done. Those are either original pieces for the lute by Bach, like the second lute suite 997, the first lute suite 996, the third lute suite, which is listed as 995. That's actually an adaptation by Bach from the fifth cello suite. So adding bass notes. So those are his, basically like his arrangement of it for the lute. And then of course the fourth lute suite is the third violin partita, which is why it's included on this particular record.
Okay. But what about the third sonata, the BWV 1005?
Yeah, so 1001, 1005, the G minor and the C minor violin sonatas, those are originally for violin, and so those are arranged. I basically read off of the score and maybe added a couple things here and there. But the nice thing about the violin sonatas is that you don't, particularly in those fugues, you don't really add much of anything in the fugues.
Right.
So they are.
So they transfer well over to guitar.
Yeah, I mean, not easy, but I mean it's in terms of the voicing and particularly in the polyphony. The thing about a guitar is that it's kind of in this sort of weird middle area between a piano in its polyphony and its polyphonic capabilities, and like a violin or a cello in its singing capabilities with vibrato and how you use the left hand if you choose to use it that way. And combining those two things with the guitar, a lot of violinists, when they hear that on guitar for the first time, they're often really pleasantly surprised. They report like, wow, it's like you can really hear the counterpoint and the things that are more or less implied, where, you know, because with the bow, of course, if you even have a three voice texture, they have to go run, 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 and on the guitar, you know, that something like that can be just done. So you actually hear the three voices actually sort of commingling together more easily in a way on the guitar, even though we don't have the sustain things that a violin has. So.
Yeah. I was reading the booklet, and you say in the booklet that you try to play what's there, and then you went on to say the difficult thing with Bach's music on guitar is that there's a daunting, awesome, rewarding, gratifying amount of there. Can you talk about that a little bit? You've talked a little bit about already, this sort of idea of multiple voices happening at the same time, but I'm presuming you're talking about structures and phrasing as well, right?
Phrasing and just information, like harmonic information, melodic information. Getting the phrases to really speak on the guitar and not sound percussive. You know, that's really the main challenge. I mean, it is for me to get that kind of the music to sound less like tink 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 tink. You know, that's kind of like, you know, tell me when you hear a lot of guitarists, you hear that's acoustic guitar players or classical guitar players. It's kind of like plunk plunk plunk, and to get that plunking thing out of it, you've got to, you know, really use your ear, but use with the right hand, you know, employ a very big dynamic range, so that, you know, even something that is more, maybe even, well, we could even take that passage more declamatory, like, sorry, like, da da da, like, you know, instead of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's really, you know, more or less easily done on the guitar. But to go ya dum dee dum da dum. Oh, sorry, I'm practicing another piece in D. But yeah, to get the inflection between the notes, melodic inflection is really, you know, involves a lot of crafting with the right hand in the ear, and that's a
Right,
lot
right.
I do. That's what takes the plunk plunk kind of thing a little bit out of the guitar. And you at the end, I mean, what you hope that the listener is hearing is really just music, and that's what I mean by, you know, I just try to play what's there. Meaning, if you know where the inflection, the melodic inflection is supposed to go, you know, a strong chord versus a weak chord, or, you know, an appoggiatura, these things, when you've studied it, then it's just making it happen through lots of repetitions and practice.
Uh, in the booklet, you also say that Bach's music gives you respite in this turbulent world. The CD was recorded in 2018 and 2019. Did you play selections from this disc during the pandemic to give you solace?
No, because really during well, I practiced 1001, the G minor sonata, just because there were instances in which, like, I was rolling with that piece, actually, like into 2020, especially. It was better than ever. I was just starting to get really, really good. You know, I felt like, you know, to another level, personal level, personal best,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and then the pandemic hit. So that was the movements from that were kind of my, like, you know, during that whole time with the, you know, with the live streams and kind of like an interview where you play a little bit, or people were just coming up with all kinds of things to keep the music going, which was great.
Mhm.
But that wasn't, you know, the pandemic was an opportunity really for me to spend more time with my kids and just get more connected with, because before, you know, prior to that, you know, for years I was on the road for 2/3 of the year.
Right,
So it was a way to get really connected with them and to actually be able to sit down and play with them for more than like a half an hour, right?
right.
Um, because on the few days that I'd be home, I would play with them and want to be there with them, but then it's like the clock is ticking because of the, you know, your office, basically. You know, I mean, the office end of the music business never stops.
Yeah,
So,
right, right. Hmm.
and if you can get you can get 3 hours of practice in a day at home. I mean, that's like, it's incredible. It's like
Yeah,
a
a dream come true.
right.
Um, uh, with the violin partitas and sonatas that you're playing on guitar, are they like the Bach cello suites where there's very few articulations and dynamics, or I'm presuming Bach leaves a lot up to the artists. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think, well, you know, you get in the violin, when you look at the manuscripts, you just see the phrase lines, like you see phrase lines.
Hmm.
You know, I had a kind of a long sort of hang session with Suvin Kim, the violinist, who's been a longtime friend of mine, in Portland when I was playing there. I was playing a world premiere of Pierre Jalbert piece with saxophone. But then we stayed up until like 2 or 3 in the morning. Like, he was going over the first violin sonata because they recorded a recital of mine during the pandemic. And he's like, I mean, I had never even noticed this before, but he's like, he was actually saying, like, the actual pen strokes are an indication, the thickness of them, or tossed off nature of them, were like an indicator, like by Bach, were like almost like a coded message as to how to actually phrase it. I mean, that kind of idea sort of blew my mind. I don't know but if I'm going to go all the way there with that, but meaning, like, he was saying, like, he didn't just leave this blank. I think Suvin's point was, he didn't just leave this stuff blank just because he didn't put in this, that, or the other, you know, usual thing you would find in a modern edition. And that's a nice thought, actually. I think that's a really cool thing. The cello suites are very, very different, because I'm playing the first cello suite tomorrow night here in Toronto, and that one just that one alone I've just struggled with in terms of adding bass notes, because there you kind of have to add some things, or they sound a little bit thin after that magnificent prelude. Like
Right.
the first cello suite prelude sounds awesome on the guitar. I mean, it just sounds really great. It's like, well, I mean, I wouldn't say awesome. I mean, I'll leave that to the listener, but like this is it's really made for the guitar. And then with those other voices, you go da, da, da.
Yeah.
And I go like,
Yeah.
so you can actually you can do more of the implied polyphony with it, but then but after that, when you get into the other dance movements, you got to think about adding bass notes. You can't just go like, so you got to to make it something that you try to guess what Bach might have done if he had a guitar and he had a guitarist sitting in front of him, and can we do this? Can we do that? And then you're just guessing really though at that point.
Yeah, there's a guitar. I think he's the head of the guitar department at the University of Toronto. Actually, Jeffrey McFadden is his name.
A longtime friend of mine, one of my best friends.
He's released 2 CDs of the complete Bach cello suites performed on guitar.
Those are very good transcriptions,
which is amazing. You mentioned it in passing. How much of the dance forms did you take into account when you were performing this, when you were recording this music of Bach? I mean, I'm thinking in particular of the third partita. You've got the gavotte, the rondo, bourrées. How much did the Baroque dance suite form play into your interpretation?
Well, very, very much so. I generally like to keep dances dancey. and I don't mean to oversimplify it, but without going into too much detail, like they should feel dancey. They should feel buoyant and kind of, and lifted and really rhythmic and that kind of thing. And as opposed to, I mean, a saraband, of course, is slower, but even there, like I'm keeping time. You can stretch, you can move time, you can stretch time, but I think with the slower something is, actually there's more opportunity to do rubato within the time, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I just feel like those things have to, do that thing, if you will.
Mm-hmm. In the booklet, you were saying that between the volume 1 of Bach and this volume 2, you performed 700 concerts and put out 8 hours of commercial releases. I guess my next question is, what's next for you? What do you have in the way of concerts and recordings coming up?
Coming up, nothing. I mean, right now I'm going to enjoy what happens with the Bach stuff. I want to perform that in recitals, particularly 1001 right now. We'll see what happens. I want to get 1001 kind of back to where it was in 2020. And that's going to start happening this summer. This spring, I've been doing first cello suite to kind of get myself back in, because I hadn't really done a lot of solo performing. There was almost like a 2-year period where I was a little, rusty with it. So the first cello suite is a little bit more manageable in that sense, because I've known that I've played that since I was a kid. I just said, yeah, I mean, actually more solo records, actually, because this was the first solo record I made since Play, which was released in 2014. After winning the Grammy for that, I wanted to use that as an opportunity to get a lot of the collaborations in. Yolanda Cononassis, the harpist, Julian Lebreau, we made 2 records, the jazz accordion player, Escher String Quartet. We've worked together for 15 years, So it was great to get the Aaron J, really nice recording of the Aaron J. Kernis, quintet. That's a super difficult piece to play. And the Casso Tedesco is no walk in the park either. So it's just nice to, finally get those out, because we've been playing them for so long,
Right. Yeah. Jason, this has just been really, really great. It's been great to meet you and talk about this amazing CD, Bach Volume 2. It's just fantastic. It is in full rotation here at Classic 107. thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. This is just wonderful.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.